I want to tell you something that I saw happen a couple of weeks ago. It was a remarkable moment. Wednesday, 2 weeks ago, when people by the hundreds of thousands lined up to go get a chicken sandwich at a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And a lot of people couldn't understand what was going on. I think I understand just a little bit of it. It was that when people got in those lines, and even though they sometimes would sit in their car idling a tank's worth of gas, are standing in line for 2 and 3, and I heard reports of 3 and 4 hours. And yet they weren't angry about it. They didn't take their chicken sandwich, throw it on the floor, and stomp on it. Why would they tolerate that? Let me tell you why. Because that was the day when a lot of people in this country looked around and realized they weren't alone. They realized they weren't alone. This wasn't about Dan Cathy or something he said. It was about when mayors of United States cities actually used the position of a power and authority that they held and said that they wouldn't welcome a company because someone affiliated with the company had a point of view that they disagreed with. And there were a lot of us who said, whoa, it's one thing to disagree. It's one thing to even argue and to call names. But to begin to use the power of government to put your boot on our throat and tell us to shut up and go away, that we are not welcome in places where we still have to pay taxes. There were a lot of us who said, that's a bridge too far. And on that day, a lot of people But what I want you to understand is that it was not so much the pleasure of the sandwich. It was the unmitigated joy of looking around, not just here in Iowa. And I saw some video footage that was stunning to me. My friend Randy Davis from Ottumwa had gone to the mall, and he took his, I guess it was his iPhone camera, and he started at the beginning at the check stand, and he just followed the line. And I thought, how long is this going to last? And just panning that crowd, I thought it would never end. And yet across the country, there were no reports of people getting into fights and fussing and fighting over chicken sandwiches. And you know why? Because it was the joy of looking around and saying, I'm really not alone after all. My view as a believer, to believe in traditional marriage and to believe that it's right to protect life from the moment of conception is not a view that makes me all by myself out here. In the book of 1 Kings, you may remember the story of Elijah, who had this incredible moment of great victory. And then he found out the king was chasing him and threatened. In fact, said, I'm going to kill you. Now, folks, when government says, I'm going to kill you, whether it's I'm going to put you out of business or I'm going to physically take your life, that is not a good thing when you look around and you realize government is bigger than just me. And Elijah was really concerned about this. In fact, not just concerned, he ran, he hid, and he crawled up under a juniper tree. And this prophet, who was so bold and had such courage, now cowers under a juniper tree, which is a scrub bush. And he says, God, I'm the only one you got left. I'm the last man standing. I'm all alone. And they're coming after me. A lot of you feel like Elijah. Maybe you've crawled up under your own juniper tree. Maybe you've gone out there to stand in front of the Planned Parenthood Center and passed out brochures, and you were the only one that showed up that day. And you went home and got up under the juniper tree and said, God, I'm the only one who cares about this. Some of you perhaps have gone to register voters, and you got cursed at and screamed at. And you went home and got up under your juniper tree and said, I'm the only one left. And some of you have gone out there and you signed petitions, and you stood and you worked so hard, and I want to say what you guys did through the family leader and all the organizations, pro-family organizations in this state. If that's Barack Obama, tell him I'm not available till after. So many of you in this state, you worked your hearts out, and you changed America by saying to some judges who thought they were legislators, no, you can't. And then you got all kinds of grief for it from family members and friends. And you wondered if anybody really noticed. You went home up under your juniper tree. And you thought I was all by myself. And I want to explain to you what happened, I believe, a couple of weeks ago, was as people stood in line across this great land, standing in line for a restaurant, a lot of which people had never been to before, what they found out was, I'm not alone.